Welcome back. You're watching the Urban Debate. I'm Faye. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about the impeachment motion, which the Vice President of India has decided to reject this morning in a very elaborate order that he released. Post that rejection, we saw Kapil Sibal of the Congress Party and the other members of those who came, who actually placed the motion before the Vice President, come out and say that the Vice President's rejection is in fact illegal and untenable. Let me go across right now to Pinky Anand, currently serving as Additional Solicitor General of India. Ms. Anand, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time at this point. I want to understand from you if you agree at this point with the Vice President and the stand he has taken in his order.
Of course, I mean, without any issue. The 10-page reasoned order that the Vice President has given is extremely salutary and I think to a major extent puts an end to this controversy. Of course, you might see somebody coming up to the court again, that is a threat there, but be that as it may, today you have had the Vice President of India in its capacity under the Constitution to decide a major constitutional issue and to reject the motion as being misfounded and without any basis. I think it's the greatest testimony that we can have to a democratic system upholding the constitutional integrity and upholding the constitutional principles.
Ms. Anand, in the order, the Vice President, the Honourable Vice President has said that he believes that the accusations that have been made have not been proved. They have to be proven instances of misconduct, and he says that they're not been proved. They are actually just accusations, and the people making these accusations are not convincing. But the argument on the other side by Mr. Sibal is that it's only after an inquiry will we know if these accusations have been proved or not. What is your response to that?
When you look at the constitutional provisions, you will find the answer within themselves. There was no need for the Constitution to have inserted the proven misbehavior as it is so stipulated, because the other is incapacity. That is not relevant in the present case. What does proven misbehavior mean? That it has to be proven at the first instance for it to go further, for a probe. The whole concept of impeachment was something that was brought in only on a limited perspective to remove a high constitutional functionary, and that was within boundaries. Are we saying today, is it possible to say that the Vice President has no option but to accept a motion and to go forward with it? So it's really a forwarding kind of position that he would hold. That is impossible. That is not the contemplation of the Constitution. The Vice President has a right to decide whether to accept or to reject the motion. He has applied his mind, consulted a wide range of constitutional functionaries to come to a conclusion which he has voiced in his 10-page judgment. I think that is the most amazing part of constitutional integrity that we can find in the current position.
Well, Mr. Sibal in his press conference today also cited the fact that the rejection came so quickly and he believed that it was too quick. What's your response to that? Is that even a fair argument to make?
Well, you know, it's heads you win, tails you lose. Either way, if the Vice President had taken time, then it would have been said that the Vice President is not giving his order in time. And in fact, the Vice President has very carefully enumerated why, in view of the constitutional kind of imbalance that has been created by means of such motions, why he was inspired to conclude the proceedings in a short while, to put an end to this misery, so to say, that has been started not today, incidentally. This entire process has been on for a few months, as has been visible. At every stage, aspersions have been cast, they have been set aside. They haven't gone further than that, and now again this entire motion to put forward came within a day of Justice Loya's dismissal order. I mean, the writing is on the wall.
But Ms. Anand, one of the arguments to that was that one couldn't have possibly collected 64 signatures of members of parliament overnight. So this impeachment motion or the conversations about it might have begun several weeks before the Justice Loya order.
It's just a matter of hypothesis, because ultimately the conversation obviously started much before. At what time anybody signed is another matter, but the conversation and the entire approach, it was like a laddered approach where steps were taken one at a time, first coming up with various petitions, not only one petition on a single issue, but sometimes double petitions on a single issue, in an attempt to build this entire atmosphere on, to bring it forward to this level. So I don't think the signatures themselves are very important. They may have come at the last day or they may have come before, but the entire motion was very much in operation and visible.
Well, the Congress party has expressed its willingness now to move to the Supreme Court. They've said that if the upper house chairman does not find merit in the notice of impeachment, the decision could call for a judicial review. What's your response to that? Do you believe that this merits moving to the Supreme Court against the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court?
The point is, you can't say anything about the fact that anybody can move the Supreme Court for any impugning any order, but there is no merit in that. That is for sure. I think the grounds which have been disclosed by the Honourable Vice President in passing the order are crystal clear. It's only if there is any fallacy in that. Or in the legal proposition that there could have been anything. But you know, again, this is part of that laddered approach. First start the action going, first start a public debate, first start a public agitation, go to court, then go to the Vice President on a motion, and if the motion is rejected, I think Mr. Sibbal has also said that he would value the judgment given by the court, and that would be the end of the matter. So let's see where it goes, but definitely you can foresee that there would be building up this to go to the court by all standards.
Ms. Anand, I want to draw your attention to paragraph 20 of the order of the Honourable Vice President of India. It says, I'm constrained to observe that this matter was made public. He basically says that the provision prohibits publicity of any notice submitted by a member until it has been admitted by the chairman and circulated to all members. But in this instance, after submitting the notice to me on the 20th of April, the members addressed a press conference and shared the statements contained in the notice, which included some unsubstantiated charges against the Chief Justice. Would you agree that the section here actually prevents that press conference from having taken place, and they have in fact broken protocol?
Of course it does. Of course, it is an obvious breaking of protocol, and it is good that the Vice President has brought it out in the order itself, because now there's no, taking a contrary position to that. The question remains, the reason for all this, Faye, is rather clear. The point is, you raise an issue, but till the issue is accepted by the Vice President, the reason it doesn't go is because you do not want to lower the dignity of institutions in the presence of the public. Please understand, we are talking about the highest office in the country today as far as the judicial institution is concerned. Aspersions are being raised. So those aspersions, for them not to go public, is a part of the Rajya Sabha orders, and I think violation of that should invite its own strictures.
Right. I also want to ask you this then. Do you believe, and we have had several conversations happen on national television and across social media about whether or not these various charges are in fact true, whether things have been pitted and buried, and whether there has been some sort of unfairness in setting up of benches. Do you believe all of that was unnecessary and unfortunate then?
Again, Faye, I think, I don't know where this really stems from. If you look at the entire past history of the Supreme Court, you've always had the Chief Justice deciding to which bench a matter would be allocated. Anybody may be happy with it, or anybody may have objection to it, but the point remains, systems have been developed to ensure there is some stability and some regularity in a process. So there has been never any question asked as to which bench it will go before, how a bench is constituted, who will, for example, be members of a constitution bench. These are not issues that have to be publicly debated or are open to a challenge in any fashion, and this has been settled across several judgments, and aside from that, by procedure, protocol and consistent practice on this level. To actually try to find holes in this kind of position, I think is rather unfortunate. We have to understand we work within systems, and unless we do that, you cannot have institutions stand by themselves.
Well, I also want to ask you then about, the Prasad Education Trust. One of the charges that has been brought against the Chief Justice is that he shouldn't have presided on a matter in which he was also involved. What's your response to that?
See, I do not want to go into the specific charges at all. I think what has been dealt in the order is rather evident for what it stands. Whether he should have sat, whether he should not have sat, is not a matter of public debate.
And finally, Ms. Anand, there have been accusations from the government of the day that this entire thing was politically motivated by the opposition to cast aspersions on the Supreme Court of India. Do you believe that to be true? And do you believe that that has been successful to some extent?
on the first question, definitely, I think the writing is on the wall. The entire attempt has been to destabilize the institution itself and to destabilize anything more that goes with it. It is an entire campaign to vilify not only a person or persons, but to vilify the institution, so that in one way or the other to create chaos in the system. And I think it's a very unfortunate state of affairs. The players are evident. Today, Faye, between you and me, everything is rather obvious to anybody who's seeing what is going on in the system. Has it been successful? Well, to some extent, definitely. It has served to start a process of people questioning the credibility of the system. Not only the people who are working within the system, but people who are common people are wondering. In fact, they don't know exactly what is happening. So obviously, there is an entire system of disconcert that was built around. One hopes that the order of the Vice President that has been given today, the recent order, would put things to some rest and quietus, but it would take a little more time, in fact, for us to stabilize the system fully. Thankfully, it is fully functional and it delivers. And please understand, we are talking about the entire country being dependent upon the justice system delivering justice, and if that in any manner is disrupted, it would be a very unfortunate state of affairs.
Well, Ms. Anand, the order also asks for the judiciary to solve the problems internally. Now, after the press conference that was held by the 4 senior judges of the Supreme Court, within judicial circles, at least within the legal community, there's still buzz about the fact that those matters have not completely been solved, that they haven't fully managed to internally solve those issues. Do you believe that we've put those things behind us? And is this not a reaction to that press conference?
Well, it is. I think the entire process seems to be one which has kind of cycled and recycled itself forward and propelled itself forward, all being part of the same process to kind of raise issues on the credibility of the institution. But, you know, these internal disputes, if any, in any case, as we've said, they're internal, so they have to be decided internally. It is not something that can be discussed or open to the public as if the debate is available there. And this runs in any institution. You have a hierarchy, you have a situation where you are actually trying to manage a system by certain patterns. I mean, it's like a captain of a ship. It is a captain who will decide what will happen to a ship. I mean, similarly, you have, I mean, thousands of examples which one can talk about.
Right.
So, therefore, the whole system functioning on that basis, I think, is a hypothesis that has to be taken. And time and again, this is not the first time that somebody might have been unhappy about the manner of either allocations or the benches. There must have been judges before also who were possibly not happy with the situation. But that doesn't mean that it is open for any challenge on that ground, because it is an internal matter which has to be resolved, if possible, or if in any case has to be kept behind the discussions and the entire basis, the infrastructure of the system being kept intact.
Ms. Anand, I have one last question for you, and it's unrelated to the impeachment. Section 377 came up in the Supreme Court again today. The government has been given some time to come up with its response. But I want to understand from you, given our fundamental right to privacy right now, do you believe that Section 377 has become fundamentally unsustainable and it must be read down?
Faye, that matter is before court. It is sub judice. The government has to come out with a stand, and in fact, shortly will do so. So I think we'll await this position to take an exact position on that stand.
All right. Ms. Anand, thank you very much for giving us your time here on Mirror Now this evening. Pinky Anand, there is the Additional Solicitor General of India. Very kind of her to explain to us her stand really on the impeachment motion of the Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Ms. Anand, many thanks for joining us on Mirror Now. Well, moving on to the conversation that we are going to have tonight at 9 p.m. And this is interesting because it affects each one of us. Can India really forgive? And I want to take you back, viewers, to the Jessica Lal case. Remember where you were when you found out about it. Remember how you felt as that case progressed for the years that it took to deliver justice to the family of Jessica Lal. Jessica Lal was a model and an actress who was part-time bartending at a party when this individual, Manu Sharma, walked into the room and demanded alcohol. The bar was closed. She told him as much. He then pulled out a revolver and shot her with it point blank for denying him alcohol. The case then progressed to the Sessions Court, where almost all of the eyewitnesses turned hostile and went on to say that they don't remember who shot Jessica Lal. Jessica Lal, remember, was shot in a full restaurant, in public view. And most of the people came forward saying they couldn't remember who did it. Manu Sharma was then acquitted for lack of evidence, and there was a public outcry, perhaps the first real public outcry in our country against a case, when the High Court then took up the case after that and heard it one more time. Manu Sharma was awarded a life sentence. He then appealed to the Supreme Court, which turned down his appeal, and he served 15 years in jail. Today, 15 years later, Sabrina Lal, Jessica's sister, who fought that fight for justice, has decided that she has forgiven him. Manu Sharma has applied for parole, which means he wants to be let out. He wants to be considered for leniency because of good behavior. Part of that process is to get in touch with the families of the victim. The family, the last remaining survivor of Jessica Lal is her sister Sabrina, who says, first of all, in her letter, that she has forgiven Manu Sharma and that she has no issue with him being released. So there are two questions to ask here. Are we as a country okay with Manu Sharma getting back onto the streets? Is it possible to forgive him when he remains in jail and not have to release him? And the bigger question is, are we comfortable with forgiveness and with reform? Remember, we're also at this point talking about the death sentence for rapists. Are we going to consider forgiving rapists after 15 years? Is that something we're comfortable with as a country? That's the question we are asking today. Joining me on the show, Neelam Katara, social activist, Maxwell Ferrara, retired Joint Police Commissioner, K.K. Manan, senior criminal advocate with the Delhi High Court, and Dr. Sujay Kantawala, senior lawyer here in Mumbai, Ramakant Gaur, senior lawyer as well. I thank all of you for joining us in this conversation. Let me start with Neelam Katara. Neelamji, where do you stand on this, on the question of Manu Sharma getting parole and walking free? Do you believe we are ready to forgive?
No, he's not getting parole. He's being let off now for good. I mean, parole, so they come back. So this is the end of his sentence if he has his way, because his sentence will be remitted and made only 14 years. Now, there is provision for this, which in itself is an irony, because now that our courts are so hesitant to give death penalty, and we talk of the Amnesty International and all those countries where death penalty is not given, whereas there the life imprisonment is for life, and it is really, really stringent. Not like this where you have furlough and parole and people keep walking in and out of hospitals. So that is it, and therefore, if he is reformed, and who is to give him this, tick mark that he is reformed? Because I believe his father had bought a hotel right outside Tihar jail, where the children of Tihar jail staff were employed, and where Manu Sharma used to spend time. This was reported by websites in 2011 and 2014. Nobody followed it up. So I don't call this being reformed. I mean, this is, they are taking really, cocking a snook the system, and I don't think he should be let out.
Sujay?
No, I think Neelam ji has a very, very valid point and a very, very important insight, because she herself has gone through the suffering, and hats off to her fight. We all support her on that. But you see, we have these different words. We have pardon, we have clemency, we have remission, we have commutation. All these words are there in the laws that govern us. Yes. There are provisions. The Constitution bench in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case dealt with all these issues. You see, you can always request the governor or the president. The court under its constitutional scheme has the power to commute. The court has been doing that, commuting sentences. And in this case, since that threshold of 14 years has passed, Section 433 read with 433A of the CRPC kicks in, and my friends on the debate also would be aware of that. So therefore, on a simple application, the appropriate government has the discretion, considering all the relevant factors, to consider. Now, what Sabrina has done is that she has personally forgiven him. Yes. Fair enough. Yes. She may have personally forgiven him, but we should not forget that the crime
does the family's forgiveness have any bearing on punishment?
Absolutely
from
not.
Society?
She is a non-entity as far as this is concerned. That is her personal choice, because a crime is a crime against the state, the society, and therefore the state takes over the prosecution, appoints its prosecutors, and then proceeds with the trial of the case. Now, since this case has passed the Agni Pariksha, traveled right up to the Supreme Court, and he has to undergo the sentence, but because of this provision that is there, possibly, this kind of forgiveness he feels may support his application because he has crossed that 14 years threshold.
Yes.
So now it will be very interesting to see as to how and on what basis this strategy is going to be worked out.
Right. You know, I also want to point out to our audience that Manu Sharma is a very powerful person. His father is a powerful politician in Haryana. The family also owns a very powerful media house that has television channels in several languages. So, we should keep that in mind when we are having this conversation. Mr. K.K. Manan, Senior Criminal Advocate, Delhi High Court, where do you stand on this, on the fact that this individual will walk free? So on one hand, we have the family member forgiving, but on the other hand, we're talking about someone convicted of murder in point-blank cold blood who is going to be back on the streets.
I totally agree. The friend who was speaking just now, you see that he has already spent 15 years in the jail. Meaning why that actually after his holidays, this and that, remission side, actual, then it becomes about 20 years. Now the question is about his reforming. If he has already reformed himself, which is found by the authorities, jail authorities, and his post conduct of this conviction. Before conviction, his conduct was taken into consideration, that's why he was sentencing, and after conviction, when he was spending the days in the jail, time in the jail, that has to be scrutinized, that has to be seen by the authorities who were dealing with him in the jail itself. If he has already reformed, they found something that the boy is reforming himself, he may not be a dangerous for the society tomorrow if he will be released or if he will be given any benefit. So then his application, supporting with the evidence regarding his reform, regarding his services in the jail and how he has conducted in the jail, his post-conviction conduct in the jail, and number
Mr.
of things.
We've had so many conversations on this channel about how jails allow or award VIP treatment to special convicts. So people who are famous, people who are powerful, people who have money. It has happened time and time and again. So do you trust this system? Consider the fact that we're talking about somebody who was out on parole for a bit and was caught partying with his friends when he should have been at his mother's side. Is this someone we are willing to trust as a society?
You see that on that day, I think, I'm sure, we had a program on your channel one day regarding that Bombay jail, and we were discussing the situation in the jail, conditions in the jail, and the circumstances in the jail, and how much corruption in the jail, and how the jail authorities are behaving with poor people and the influential peoples. There is no doubt, but I think good people are also there, good officers are also there who does not allow all these things, but at the same time I would not like to comment upon being his application if pending that it may prejudice his case either way. No. So I will not comment to that extent at this stage because he has already
I think the thing that's going to prejudice his case is the fact that he shot someone point blank.
With due respect to Manan Sahab, senior colleague on the panel.
You see, when we are discussing something, so we should not go just out of the way or take one side. We have to balance the things. It is up to the now Lieutenant Governor, Delhi administration and the jail authorities, because ultimately we alone can't discuss and can't give the verdict on the channel.
No, I agree.
Ultimately, documentary evidence, his conduct or is not, can be seen just 2 days, 1 day or the 1 year. 14, 15 years if he has already spent, number of people, number of officials must be retired now, must be working.
I agree with Mr. Manan, my senior colleague on the panel. that we have to be very objective and everyone has a right to be heard and his application considered. Fair enough. But what Neelam ji said in the opening statement was very, very stark. There was a hotel which was opened outside the jail, and the jailer's kith and kin were given employment in that hotel. So now, how are we going to expect, logical-minded, practical people on the panel, how are we going to expect an unbiased, impartial view and recommendation? Because if these are some of the aspects that are going to go into the consideration of his application, then obviously this is going to be clouded to some extent. And therefore, I feel that what Neelam ji has said over here, if the right people are hearing this, I think this is a very serious thing, because we don't want this guy coming out and, sniggering at all the people who allowed him to walk free.
And the battle that it took to put him in jail to begin with. Ramakant Gaur, do you want to respond to that?
See, when we are talking about the conduct, and my learned senior friend says that his conduct has to be looked into by the relevant authorities, let me point out what is the conduct of this man when he was arrested. The complainant turned hostile. Second witness, Shivdas, turned hostile. Third witness turned hostile. This is the state of affairs when he influenced the trial. Perjury proceedings were taken out against those hostile witnesses by the High Court. The session judge acquitted 9 accused persons in this very case because of lack of evidence. This was the state of affairs. This is the conduct of these persons. So if it is a trial of an influenced person, the law takes a different course. They were in the government, they tried whatever the best was. So can we oversee that conduct? The answer is emphatic no. High Court pulled up the Sessions Court for not convicting him. High Court convicted him, awarded him life imprisonment. Supreme Court awarded him life imprisonment. Then if we are talking about the conduct of this man, it is bad. Secondly, it is a matter of record. Various media channels, various news media have reported this, that he has misused parole. Now, he was given parole for some other reason and he was found party. That's something what is the conduct.
Yes. In fact, I want to bring in Mr. Maxwell Ferrara as well. Ramakant Gaur, I want to bring in Mr. Maxwell Ferrara, the former Joint Police Commissioner of Delhi. Mr. Ferrara, thank you so much for joining us. I want to understand, weigh in on this as, as a top cop. Do you believe that the system may be corrupt? Or do you believe that we should trust the jail authorities at this point if they say good behavior? And by good behavior, they mean he helps inmates' children get education by paying fees, uniforms, books and stationery. Is that convincing to you?
Well, I would take it with a pinch of salt, because there are any number of more cases like this where the personal influence of the accused, or the jail attorney, has been stated to be good, and somebody is doing puja, somebody is doing, charity and all these kind of a thing. Is it on par with everybody else? Is it on par with somebody who doesn't have the means to do all these things? Absolutely. And this is something, unfortunately, I'm glad my co-panelists on this panel, have taken a stand, over this conduct business. And we have come, this nation, despite all the constitutional safeguards that have been, ensured by the framers of the Constitution, today there is no respect for the rule of law. There is no respect for the right thing to be done. It is either who is in power, who has got the number of hands to raise, and this is what is the subverting of the due process of law, due justice that is, seen to be justice or seen to be believed. Now this has been absolutely thrown to the winds, and this is unfortunate. It is happening over, it started with, I asked that simple question, when you say that no prosecutable evidence can be found, has our criminal justice system, sort of fallen to the pits to that level that we can't find, prosecutable evidence? Why are we not finding prosecutable evidence? Why is this coaxing, cajoling, intimidation, everything that is allowed to happen and nothing is done about it? What depths have we come in this country now? This is what is happening, and fantastic. The best investigators in the country have today coined this word. No prosecutable evidence can be found, and people are sitting in parliament because no prosecutable evidence can be found against them, isn't it? And we are quite comfortable sitting beside a person with, a huge list of criminal, cases against them. We are quite comfortable. And they are framing laws for law-abiding people to follow, isn't it? I mean, are we ever thinking about these things? Are we comfortable in this country, really, without doing anything about it? Simple thing. I mean, today I have got a list of, I have many other criminals who have been in jail and whom the jail authorities are confirming that they have, done well, they are reformed and they are doing this and doing that in the eyes of the... To what extent it is play acting,
yes.
to what extent it is real, is something that, is anyone really going into it? Is there a system that can really go into it? We have a sentence review board. I know the sentence review board has taken very strong, exception in quite a few cases where even the Supreme Court had ordered parole and the sentence review board put its foot down, and the so-called convict on parole had to go back to jail.
Right, Mr. Ferrara, we've got a lot of people on the phone line, but very important points being raised by Maxwell Ferrara. Krishna Kumar on the phone line from Ahmedabad. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
My point of view is that, we have to look at it very objectively, because in the term life imprisonment, now in India, life imprisonment doesn't mean that, the person stays for the end of the life, till the end of the life. Unlike in West, where, we have certain like 80, 90, 100 years. Here it is a life imprisonment. So he has almost served the sentence. So what I mean to say is that, we are not, what he has done is very gruesome and everything. But at the end of the day, we are helpless. I mean, at the end of the day, it's such a case, we should be eye-opener for us.
No, I don't understand the point. What is the point you're making, Krishna Kumar?
As an offense and give you a higher sentence in number of years. Life imprisonment doesn't mean...
Okay, all right. So you're saying life imprisonment is not, life in prison is not enough. S.S. Sehgal on the phone line from Pune. Mr. Sehgal, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. This is Brigadier Sehgal. I just wanted to say, young life was extinguished by breath. A punishment was given by the court. I think the sister or anybody else or any other relative in this or any other case does not have either the legal or the moral authority to pardon a killer. I don't know whether it's being done under duress or for what reason, but once the court has awarded a punishment, I think only a higher court can pardon that and not any relative.
Right.
That's what I want to say.
Yes, good point. Srinivasan Rao on the phone line from Khammam district near Hyderabad. Mr. Rao, go ahead.
Ma'am, good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Actually, this is a kind of a story that you have been creating a kind of awareness among the people. In India, laws are meant for only poor people, according to my opinion. So rich people, politicians, and cleverly managing, and they are coming out even though they are involved in all these criminal cases.
Yes.
India is a place where you can purchase everything. Particularly, corruption is there at every level.
Yes.
We can purchase, you can pay money, by paying money we can come out from all these things.
Yes. Yes, in fact, the other thing that we must be cognizant of, the Mecca Masjid case in Hyderabad, that, all accused were acquitted for lack of evidence. Where is that now investigation going to go? Are we going to find the people who really did it? If it was not these people, how often does this happen, that cases fall apart for lack of evidence, that witnesses turn hostile? These are the questions that we're asking today, and our phone lines continue to be open. But I want Neelamji to respond to this question, that the laws apply only to the poor, that the rich find a way to buy themselves out of trouble. Neelamji.
Definitely, there's a lot of difference between the way justice is meted out and for the rich and the poor, because this man has the money, he can pay the fees for 1,000 children, he probably was rich enough to have the education where he can help the jail make profit and things. So somebody who's poor, who's not had that level of education, who cannot do that level of charity, I mean, he can keep languishing. And we've seen this again and again. I mean, for the Ansars, it was said that they'll bring a trauma center. Salman Khan walks out because of his being human. So, I mean, if somebody is doing charity, that's fine. But then that makes some people more equal than other people. The other thing is that if our laws are wrong, they need to be sorted out. I mean, we are coming down very heavily on not giving death penalty for murder. But then in that case, at least give life. I mean, it's a joke. Somebody murders, stays for 14 years and just walks out. And those 14 years also he's coming out on parole, he's going to the hospital, he's going wherever. So is it really worth fighting for justice in this country for a person who does not have the facility what these people have? I mean, what is the jail authority to give the certificate of good behavior to these people? What is good behavior? I'd like to know what are the norms by which it will be decided.
No, but see, I agree with the anguish of Neelam ji, and I am equally anguished. I mean, but then these are the provisions that we have. We have section 433 of the CRPC and 433A. And 433A talks about a sentence which was considered for life and which was punishable with death or life imprisonment. And if you have crossed the threshold of 14 years, then after you cross that Lakshman Rekha, you are eligible to ask for commuting the sentence. So these provisions are there, and they were considered right from Godse's case. Godse's case and Shantaram's case, and thereafter the famous Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, where the death sentence was commuted to life by the Supreme Court. And thereafter the state of Tamil Nadu said, no, not even life. These guys go out, all of them. So they exercised their power as an appropriate government, again which was taken up to the Supreme Court. And thereafter there was a constitution bench that went into the constitution and the IPC, CRPC, etc.
No, but Suresh, what bearing does the family members' forgiveness, and we saw that in the case of Rajiv Gandhi as well, Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi came out to say that they have forgiven their father's killers. What bearing does that have on the decision?
According to me, it has no bearing, because our jurisprudence operates in a different field. This jurisprudence operates in the Middle East, where they call it blood money. You forgive the person who has killed your family member for a sum of money or XYZ. But we don't operate that way.
What are you saying? Right now, Mr. K.K. Manan is saying, I refuse to talk about it because if we talk about it on national TV, it will have an implication on the decision. So. If Sabrina Lal on national television says, I have forgiven him, he's apparently got good behavior, won't that have an implication on the conversation?
No, because whatever debates we are having for the purpose of creating awareness and educating our viewers. And your channel has got that kind of a sweep all across. But the powers that be are supposed to be impartial. They are supposed to be blind to all this. And they are supposed to apply their own mind and on the basis of material on record.
Do these decision makers involve judges of the courts, or is this the government of Delhi that's deciding?
The government of Delhi.
Well, then I'm going to seriously be concerned about how this is going to go forward. Ramakant Gaur, the government of Delhi, unfortunately in our system, the politicians will decide if a very powerful politician's son is going to walk free.
And,
unfortunately, this is
the point is that who is going to give the certificate of reform?
Good behavior.
That
yes.
he is reformed.
Yes.
If it's so unfortunate, then first of all, we need to get some of these laws changed. And here, who will give the certificate that he is a reformed person? And finally, of course, it goes to the Lieutenant Governor who can exercise his discretion. I mean, would you like to have this man sitting as a minister in Haryana or even in the central government tomorrow?
It's not, yeah.
May I add to what Neelam ji just said? That is exactly what happened.
Neelam ji, we are talking
in the
about a
Rajiv Gandhi
convict
assassination case, where the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister candidate, former Prime Minister, was blown up, and there death penalty was commuted and converted to life. And after that, the state of Tamil Nadu, again, like you have the Lieutenant Governor in Delhi, state of Tamil Nadu exercised its discretion and said, okay, that's it, it's all over.
But
against which Union of India went to the Supreme Court and challenged their decision.
right. I just want to respond to Neelam ji, because I don't believe that someone convicted of a heinous crime in this manner can still run for either MLA or MP, cannot be a minister or hold that position. So thankfully, you said you want this person to be a minister tomorrow, so it's unlikely that he will be a minister. Ramakant Gaur, you were responding to the fact, who decides reform? How do you decide that somebody who shot a girl point blank because he didn't get a drink is now a reformed person?
Please,
He's a man who was convicted, who botched up the investigation, who botched up who influenced the witnesses, and who influenced the courts of justice. We are talking about that man. Now, where is the guarantee that he is not influencing the government-appointed panel? This panel will not go judiciously, but they will use their discretion. The discretion is used, misused and abused. In such cases, we have seen that. So, as far as the good conduct is concerned, it is farce. But as far as the discretion part is concerned, I am more than sure that it is going to be misused in this particular case.
Right. In fact, we'll play it out for you in a little while. Sabrina Lodge spoke to me some time ago on the channel when she talked about why she has forgiven this man. And I want to remind our viewers that this was a nationwide sort of outrage that happened, where people demanded justice and outraged against the fact that Manu Sharma was let off scot-free for the lack of evidence. One would assume a lot of people across the country would feel like they invested in that case and in that fight. But the person who really fought it was Sabrina Lodge. Listen to what Sabrina Lodge has to say today. Many thanks for joining us. Of course, a lot of people in India who sort of emotionally, some physically, part of the battle that you waged, and I must say a heroic, tireless battle, would be curious right now to know why you want this person back out onto the streets. What is your thinking at this point of forgiveness, and do you believe he should be released from prison?
It's not just about, it's not about the justice. Justice was served in 2006. It's about me. I have fought with this situation since '99. And I have done it mostly alone, and it has been an uphill task for me. And I feel that unless I get rid of this baggage finally, I won't be able to move on with my life.
Well, there's a lot of talk also about the fact that this is a very powerful individual. His family still owns a very large media network. One wonders if it's because of his power that he's being considered for parole. Sabrina?
According to what I've heard, is because his behavior or his conduct in prison has been really good, and he's done a lot of good work and helped a lot of people in jail. So I don't know whether it's the power, because a lot of people have power, but but it seems to be on his good conduct that he's being
right. And Sabrina, I want to, yes, I want to ask you about this concept of remorse and this concept of, good conduct. The idea that someone can, someone can, with their good conduct, prove that they have in fact reformed. Would you be willing to believe that Manu Sharma has reformed and he is no longer the person he was in 1999?
I would like to believe that, yes, and from what I've heard, it seems so.
Have you written a recommendation to the jail authorities, Sabrina, in your letter? What were the contents of your letter, and what is your recommendation on his parole?
There was no recommendation. It was a simple one-liner that said that I don't have an issue with him getting bail. That's it.
Sujay Kantawala, do you believe in reform?
No, I mean, of course.
In this case?
We have to definitely, there is a whole school of thought that says that in jail you have to try and reform people. But then that reform thing should not be overstretched. Now I'm a little taken aback by what Jessica's sister, and after having fought and seen to it that justice is done to her sister, she has made observations that conduct of this guy, the murderer, has been really good. He has helped a lot of people in jail, and I heard from people that he has reformed. So I have grave doubts about these statements. But ultimately, the appropriate government will have to therefore apply its mind, not go by certificates given by people who may be interested around the jail also and may be wanting to help him, because they all would be clouded with mystery. So I think the appropriate government now has got a sacred duty to apply its own individual mind, maybe appoint a sort of a SIT to conduct actual fact finding and to ascertain what is the real truth, and something strange may come out of that.
Mr. Manan, do you, and I want to ask you this question, you said you want to you don't want to actually pass any sort of comment on the conduct of this individual because you don't want to influence the decision-making process. But wouldn't a statement like this from a family member influence the decision-making process?
Not at all. Not at all. You remember that even Priyanka Gandhi told before the media, given to the authorities also, these things doesn't affect the decisions of the government, and especially at the time of parole or releasing. Or one thing I would like to say, because first of all, Neelam Katara ji is there. I have every respect for her. I have seen her fighting the case for her beloved son. So I salute her. But I may differ with her views. But only one thing I would like to tell you, we were discussing about impeachment also. That is why I was telling at that time, we should not think that the justice is not there for the poor, or for the justice only for the rich people. They can buy the justice. Chotala ji, I may not say ji, people may say, another Mr. Manan said ji. Chotala, Lalu, Madhu Koda, even Indira Gandhi ji was sent behind the bar. So that is not the question, that law doesn't work in this case, in this country. Law is there, judiciary is there. Nobody afraid from influencing people, whatever the wealth or whatever the influencing or minister, whoever they are. We should and we are having full faith in the judiciary.
Well, let's be fair, Mr. Manan. We are not talking about the judiciary at this point. We're talking about the fact that the people deciding are the government, are effectively a group of politicians.
I know. I'm coming on the point.
And to say that politicians are not going to be influenced by money and power, I think is a little naive.
You see that Chotala was, and his son was a member of parliament or a minister or a MLA. He is spending in the Tihad or not? This Laluji is not
then again, we then begin to talk about what sort of conditions there are in Tihad and how VVIP treatment is awarded to those people who can pay for it. But I come back to you, Mr. Manan, because right now on the phone line we have Mr. Valerian Santos. He is the father of Kenan Santos. One second, Mr. Manan, I'll come back to you. Kenan Santos, remember, Kenan and his friend Ruben Fernandez were killed by a group of men because they were protecting their female friends from being harassed back in 2011. Mr. Valerian Santos, Kenan's father, is with us on the phone line right now. Mr. Santos, what is your reaction to the fact that after the public outcry and after all of the fighting, that Manu Sharma could in fact walk free among us? Mr. Santos, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please go ahead. What's your reaction to the fact that he's going to walk free?
No, this is very bad, because I'll tell you, after my son having
protected the girls, that is life and all, and I was very proud about that also, because it is our duty. It is not only the army that must work on the border. Inside also, we citizens should do something. But apart from all of that, even though I was given a fast-track court by none other than the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, still then the case took about 5 years. And 5 years I had to run up and down to court every time, and then to see or gather all the witnesses, tell them to attend court, to give witness. After taking all this trouble, now they have got a sentence where they are sentenced to a term of until they die, they will be inside. But after this, if the government is going to come and then leave them like that, like this Manu Sharma who has killed that innocent girl, then I think so it is a big injustice to the family. Because, I mean, how can you just allow these people to go reform or not reform? He has done the crime. There is no guarantee that he is not going to do it back. I think I take a great objection to this, and something has to be done about our laws.
Right, I want to go over to Mr. Maxwell Ferrara. Mr. Ferrara, here is someone, and if we look at the track record, here is someone who attempted to influence witnesses. There were spy cameras that were done later to show the witnesses were lying under oath. They perjured themselves. Here is someone who attempted repeatedly to get parole and to come out and party with his friends. This is not a squeaky clean track record. The fact that he's being considered right now for a commutation of his sentences should be worrying.
It is more than worrying, because it is not really all these methodologies that we have to get a free and frank opinion. I don't think is there at all today in this country. It is whom you know and how influential are your contacts, and who is the lawyer concerned who can get you justice, or what you think is justice or not. And this is the unfortunate. I am very disillusioned, and I know of a case where it is the Sentence Review Board which decided, in fact, literally defied the Supreme Court order to give parole, and they said that no, the man has to come back to this thing. He's not ripe for parole. And these are the kind of things that happen. We differ in ideas, we differ in verdicts, and even the current, environment, the impeachment that is going on, which was a debate you are conducting just before this episode.
Yes.
The very fact that there is some kind of a movement in this regard, there is a disgruntled, there is a of segment of society which feels aggrieved, which feels that justice is not really being done.
Here's the question I think we should ask ourselves as a country right now. It's not just about Jessica Lal. We are at this point discussing very seriously the death sentence for those people who rape children in our country. What does that mean? Does that mean that someone, after a great deal of legal procedure, will be awarded that death sentence for raping a baby in our country, and then 14 years later will have the ability to appeal to walk free? Sujay? That's what it means effectively, right? That people can rape babies and then 14 years later come out.
So therefore, I think this requires deep consideration, and right-minded people have to approach the Supreme Court and ask for a declaration on this. I'll tell you, when I had begun my practice 27 years back, there was this guy who came and met me and said that, I was convicted for 7 years. And in this small town, Jamnagar at that time, they used to follow this archaic jail manual that if there is a snake that is found in the precinct of the jail, and if you kill that snake, so you have saved somebody's life, 7 days off on your sentence. That way, every day in his tiffin, one snake used to come, and that same snake used to circulate again and again. So 7 years became 1 year. So this is how our laws are interpreted, and this is how they are manipulated by corrupt people. So therefore, we have to be very vigilant to this kind of tactics and gimmicks. Yes. And I would suggest that now that this topic has come up, we have to take it to court and a logical conclusion.
I I saw Ramakant Gaur smile a little at the mention of, Maxwell Ferrara mentioned that there are lawyers who specialize at getting you, shortening your sentence and getting you out of jail as quickly as possible. Is that true, Ramakant Gaur? In the legal community, are there people who specialize in making your stay in jail as comfortable as possible?
At times it is really very painful to be a lawyer. When you see the travesty of justice happening on record, different people being treated differently, and it is not me only who is saying that. In Unnao case, Allahabad High Court recorded that the conduct of the highest of the police official is bad, the conduct of additional Advocate General was adversely commented upon, the influence over the process of justice was commented upon. This is a state of affairs in this country. I feel painful to be in this profession at times. So when Mr. Pereira said that, somehow I agree to him. And it is in existence these days.
All right, I've run out of time on this conversation, but I want to thank my
lawyers,
guests.
Special treatment, special relationship in jail.
Yes.
It is happening.
I want to thank my guests for making time for us this evening to talk about this. But viewers, it boils down to simply this. Here was a very, very public case. Think about the cases that were not so public, where the victims didn't get the public national outrage that Jessica Lal received from our country, the attention from the media. Be that as it may, Manu Sharma is still likely to walk free, because that is how our rules are designed, and because the decision will lie with the government of Delhi and with the LG of Delhi and not with a judge. We have to relook at this entire process. Someone who is rich and powerful and has rich and powerful friends within politics, his fate is to be decided by other politicians, and that is of grave concern. Money and power get you through jail unaffected with VVIP treatment. Anyone who is in touch with the law and order system will confirm this for you. At a point where we are talking about the death sentence for rapists who rape children below the age of 12, are we okay with a system where someone who has been awarded a death sentence can walk scot-free after 15 years because they have proven to jail authorities that they are reformed, that they're new people, that they have changed, that they're sorry? Is that good enough for us? Is India ready to forgive? That's the question really that we have to answer, and we appeal to our courts to perhaps reconsider this entire thing and answer it for us in your wisdom. Thanks for watching.